Okay guys, welcome back if you've been doing the preceding tutorials where I showed you how to design an artwork list, fix out some of the irregularities from the original. Need to reiterate, it's not my work if you are just joining us now. It is a web nap screen that I found on Pinterest that serves the purposes of what I'm trying to do here because it has a number of interesting challenges. So I've recreated it. This is the original artwork. Um, and in the preceding sort of several tutorials in Illustrator, we went over building all these elements within the file. Okay. If you are joining us now, I will make this available as a separate file as an Illustrator file. I'll also make the Photoshop version available for anyone who wants to check what it should look like inside Photoshop. Again, if you're just joining us, I'm using the CS6 version because I don't currently have Creative Cloud on this machine. Really, almost everything that I've done behaves exactly the same in both. There's very little effective difference for the kind of processes that I've been following. As far as I'm aware, I haven't spotted any major changes in Creative Cloud. Obviously, Creative Cloud is a moving thing, so that could be different depending on when you view this. So what we're going to do is we're going to recreate this, rebuild this, and move it over into Photoshop, basically. So I've moved into this group by double-clicking. I'm just clicking on the background. We're going to hit copy for this background element here. I'm going to move over to Photoshop. Okay. Now in Photoshop, I've gone to create a new document. I've chosen mobile and devices, and I've found a 320 by 480 resolution, which is what this particular app was designed for. Now this is pretty old by modern standards. But it's great for what we're trying to do, and the same principle applies to low-res things as it does to high. So by using that standard, it will automatically set the resolution. It will also set the fact that it's RGB. It's going to give it a color profile that matches and make sure that it's all square pixels, everything. Okay? If you don't know what these mean, don't worry about it. Just pick mobile devices, choose the right size, hit OK. So this is the beginnings of our document. Okay, I'm going to paste now, Control V. Into Photoshop. Now, a number of different options here. I could paste, most people paste as pixels, hit OK. It comes in, hit OK. I've now got pixels, which is great if I'm working only in Photoshop. But if I wanted to change this, like make this extend the whole page, I've got a problem, okay? Because this is now pixels, I'd have to paint it, and it's a bit of a faff, okay? So I'm just going to undo. I'm going to paste again. I could also paint as a path, which is going to bring in the path, but not very useful, no color. So I'm going to undo again, paste again. We could paste as a shape layer, which is great, especially for flat colors. This is now a vector, so I can edit it, could make it full size, but again, I've lost the gradient. Final option is paste as smart object, which is what I'm going to use throughout this tutorial. This basically means put the Illustrator stuff into my Photoshop document. If I need to change it now, I can edit it. So it's going to be the right size anyway by default, so I'm just going to hit OK. Move it up. It's going to snap in the top there, like so. Now you can see I've got my white tab here. Now I don't want that in the background. I want to edit the tab manually. So what do? I double click. It's going to give me this warning, okay, just telling me that I'm going to be making changes to a smart object in Illustrator. And once I've finished, if I want to keep the changes and update the Photoshop document, then I need to save them, okay. What you'll notice is in the background of my original document, here it has created a new vector smart object layer. Okay. And the only thing that's a bit weird about it, don't know why, but certainly in CS6, it never seems to find the object and put it in the middle. So it looks like I've got nothing. But if you hit Control 1, it'll go and find wherever it is. It just seems to get its coordinates completely confused. Okay. Now what I can do is I can take this object and say, you know what, actually, in hindsight, I want this to be a full page object now. Just be wary because it can sometimes change a gradient, which is not really what I want. What I'm actually going to try instead is I'm going to draw a new shape over the back, over the whole thing. I'm going to move it to the back by right clicking, just zoomed out a little bit with Control minus. Right click, arrange and center back. It's just off your screen. Okay. Now you can see the gradients are not aligned. So I'm going to bring up the gradient tool. If you remember where I start dragging is the first color. It's already here, so I just need to move it back. I want to remind it that this is basically where the gradient should finish. If it's not quite right, you can tweak it a little bit here or there. Okay. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to select and delete this background, this shape. So I've got full background. Just check it should be, shows me, it's in millimeters for some reason. Let's change it to pixels. Should be 320, 480. All I do now is I hit Control S to save this. I can close it. Okay. Go back to Photoshop. What will happen is a bit of magic, and it will replace it. Now, it will replace it, and as I said with the coordinates, it'll mess it up. Just drag it down into position, like so. It looks like I'm a pixel short. Okay, so I could tweak that. I'm just going to do a quick fix of stretching it, like so. Okay, but basically that is Illustrator. So I'm just going to call that. I really like labeling layers when I go into Photoshop. I'm going to call that background. I'm going to get rid of the original background it created. Okay. In fact, let's give a bit more information. Let's call it gradient background. Right. So on to the next bit. I want to bring in this tab. Now I've gone back. If you were following my earlier tutorial, here I added drop shadows, but I don't like them inside Photoshop. So I'm coming back to the basics. So I'm going to bring these in one piece at a time. Now, normally this would be punched out of that shape. So I might even want to do that here in Illustrator. So what I'm going to do, excuse me, hit one button there, is just click on this shape. I'm going to hit Control C to copy it, Control F to paste it in front. I'm going to double click. Remember, this is the one we did in Illustrator with the blend, and I could delete it. Okay, there's a number of ways you could do this. You don't have to do what I'm currently doing at the moment. But if I go into it, I could actually punch that out of that shape using Pathfinder. Okay, let's get rid. Did it get rid of it? Doesn't look like it has. Okay, right. Why not? Paste another copy of that in front. Let's try again. Minus front. It's totally ignoring me. Right. Don't worry about it. I will just bring in this shape, hit Control C, switch to Photoshop, paste. Smart object again, hit OK, hit Enter. Drag it down, boom, snaps into place. So this is my page with tab. Okay, so all I'm doing is bringing these things in one at a time. I could bring them in completely separately. I can bring them in groups. So for now, I'm going to bring all this in as one group. Again, I'm going to use Smart Objects. Now, it's going to be the right size, but to align it properly, I might need to bring in a positional image. Go back to my Illustrator document. Over on the right here, I've got the original Photoshop file. This one I'm going to paste as pixels. I'm going to ghost it a little bit. And I'm going to move it behind. Now I can move this one into position. Bear in mind that I put quite a bit of time into getting these in the right position. Your other alternative when you're pasting is you can often use Edit, and you should be able to do a paste in place. Yeah, sorry, I've got the wrong thing in the clipboard. Okay, so just copy them. I could group them, make life a little easier. I should be able to hit Edit, paste in place. It doesn't always get these things right. I hope it does now. You can see it doesn't. Okay, so we want to be a bit wary sometimes as you're moving between the two. The easy fix for that would be to go into Illustrator. If I group all those elements and put a page in, okay, and then give it no fill and no stroke, and then group it, little fix for you, paste it, hit Enter, you'll now find that it's perfectly in position. Okay, so that would be my solution, my little hack, as it were. Okay, so these are current page elements. Okay, let's bring in the tabs. So I'm going to group the tab with its icon. You may wish to get rid of the drop shadow. You can do that by going into the appearance tab for this current group, and you'll see the drop shadow there. I can turn it off. Need to do the same for the background. I've got the wrong bloody one I'm copying from here, that's why I've switched. Excuse me. Go into here. I don't need to turn them off, but if you do, you can turn them off for multiple things. I'm going to group. Okay. You can see my text isn't part of that group. And I'm going to copy. I'm not going to worry about the Illustrator file for now. I'm just using it like so. Smart object paste in place. I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm going to pretend that we've got the book on there. In fact, for now, I'm just going to fake it by, just to give myself a positional thing, I'm going to move this over here. Rotate. It's not quite right, but it will just help for the moment in making it look like something's in there. Group them, copy that, bring it in. So I'm just going to pause recording while I bring in the other elements, and then I'll talk you through where I put them. So I'm back in Photoshop, brought all of my elements in. Just need to shuffle them around a little bit now. So just going to expand this a little bit more. So for example, I've got my background elements here, which are these elements on the orange. Just want to drag them back, put them just above the orange background. I'm going to get rid of the placeholder piece because, as I said, I showed you a workaround of putting a transparent object in position. I didn't bother doing that on the tabs, so what I do want to do is move these tabs. Where are we? The center and right tabs. Need to move them back behind the page and left tab. I've got both selected at the moment with Shift. As I move this up, it should snap when I get into an aligned position like this. Okay, and then I want to move my right tab, just selecting only that one, over to the right. Oops, snaps a little bit aggressively. I also want to obviously drag my right tab behind my center tab, because in a minute I'm going to add a shadow. I have the shadows here. Again, just move these into position. I'm holding down Control key with the lasso tool selected, but you could use the move tool. You can also hold down Control key and just nudge with the arrows. I want to make sure that I reproduce the blend effect from the previous one, like so. So basically recreated it. These are all in place now. The only other thing I've got this base tab. This is the original one in Illustrator with the blend thing that I showed in the previous tutorial. If you didn't want to go that route, you could bring it in. If we double click on it in Photoshop, it brings up the layer style. If I move this out the way up here, we can go to inner shadow, for example, okay, which is a common thing people use inside Photoshop. I could knock back my opacity. I could change my angle a little bit, or I could keep it universal, but I can also change the distance and the size. Okay, so you can kind of modify these elements. In fact, let's make that go the other way, a little bit softer, and let's change the distance a little bit shorter. So that gives me a similar effect. So I could do it inside Photoshop. What I like to do, like to be organized, because these two are now together, I want to lock them, and I also probably want to create a new group from the layers. So let's call this base tab, put in brackets, Photoshop. Okay, so that's now there. It looks pretty similar to the Illustrator one. I guess the only thing I need to be careful on, just unlock this, is that perhaps the symbol needs to be nudged down a tiny bit. Okay, but that's all good. Switch that up. It doesn't matter which version you prefer. We can add all these kind of effects now inside Photoshop. Okay. Probably going to run out of time, so I'll take this on to one more tutorial where I'll just show you the depth shadow effects being applied to these planes here on the tabs, and we'll come back and mess with the battery.